Hi everyone, it's Olivia from Pindot Press. In this video, we are going to address two comments from viewers. The first one is from Alberto Allegri Rodriguez, who says, "Just one question, why use Riso at all if it smudges?" And the second is from Rituraj Dutta, who says, "Please make more video about your Riso machine." So you requested and I am delivering. So we're actually going to expand Alberto's question to why use Riso at all? Now, as a fellow creative, I am not one to advocate one printing method as superior to all the others. Because of course, one should use the printing method that is best suited to a specific project. However, Riso does have unique qualities that make it appealing to artists who want to produce a certain kind of work, and that work is usually something that needs to be produced in multiples, cheaply and quickly. So for example, zines, art prints, stationery, comics, and posters. So when artists want to sell comics and zines and art prints at a zine fair or a convention, they usually only have one option for printing, and that is laser printing. And so this video attempts to compare and contrast and show the differences between laser printing and Riso printing. So we're not actually going to be talking about fancy archival print technologies like giclées, and we're not going to be talking about the home inkjet printer, because those are totally different. The former is very expensive and is usually used more for fine art printing, and the latter is very slow and can also be pretty expensive if you want to print a ton of zines. So yeah, hopefully this video will help you in figuring out what is best for your project. So the first and most notable difference between laser printing and risograph printing is the color range. So for laser printing, you get CMYK or cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Whereas with risograph printing, you have a shade range of over 70 colors that include fluorescents, metallics, pearlescents, and even opaque white, on top of the very charming standard and custom colors. So Riso ink colors are like spot colors in that the colors are as is. So a Riso red is a red versus in CMYK you have to mix a magenta and a yellow to get to a red. And so for artists, this is like having an expanded palette, which allows us to achieve vibrancy and saturation levels beyond that which can be achieved if you're just mixing the same four colors over and over. And so that is why it's possible to achieve colors in risograph printing that you cannot in laser printing. And I'm actually going to throw up the Pindot Press color chart printed in risograph versus laser so that you can see the difference between the two. And in fact, for the laser printed version, I used the CMYK equivalent values that I found on the Stencil wiki page, which is a great resource for learning more about Riso. The second difference is that laser printers use toner powder and lasers to set that toner on the page. So it gives you that very precise, pristine, smooth, glossy, professional quality printing that you see in magazines and photo books. Whereas risograph printing uses this thick, pasty ink that's made of soybean oil or rice bran oil. So because the ink is pasty and thick, When it dries, it still leaves a little bit of residue on top of that sheet of paper. And so especially if you have a lot of inking on that sheet of paper, it could still smudge when you rub on it. And also, just like ink, when you put a lot of it on top of a sheet of paper, that paper might not be able to absorb all of that ink. So what will happen is it will probably pool to a certain area and cause blotchiness and irregularities. So unlike the precision of lasers in laser printing, in risograph printing, the ink is administered to the sheet of paper via a master or stencil system. And so you also get variations when it comes to registration. And sometimes you also get dust particles and paper dust on the stencil, which then shows up on the print. So for artists, for certain projects, they do require that clean, smooth, professional, precise, and predictable quality that laser printing offers, whereas for other projects, they enjoy the variability and the tactility as well as the imperfections that are inherent in risograph printing. So another difference between laser printing and risograph printing is the type of paper used. So laser printing can print, I assume, on both coated and uncoated stocks, but laser actually looks best when the paper is coated and also glossy. So even the matte coated stocks have a little bit of gloss to it. They're just a little bit more textured than the traditional glossy stocks. And that's because laser colors look more vibrant on these coated, smooth, glossy stocks. So with Riso, you can only print on uncoated paper stocks, which are stocks that are well suited for absorbing ink. And in fact, Riso looks really amazing on toothy vellum finishes. So paper with a bit of rough texture on them, kind of like high-end stationery. And these papers come in all sorts of colors and weights. So it just gives creatives different options in terms of paper. So the last difference I'd like to touch on between laser printing and risograph printing has to do with the speed and the cost. So laser printers, from what I've seen online, average between 20 to 50 pages per minute, depending on whether you're printing black and white or full color and how much coverage there is on the page. My risograph printer starts at 60 pages per minute and goes all the way up to 150 pages per minute. And that is pretty much irrespective of how much coverage there is on the page, because it's a stencil system and it just goes. So Riso printers are way faster than laser printers. And in fact, Risos are traditionally used in institutional settings that require prints to be made cheaply, fast, and in large quantities. So think posters, flyers, announcements, and forms for governments, churches, schools, and businesses. And for these prints, they don't need to be in full color. So if you're just printing a flyer or announcement or a form, it can just be in black or blue ink or blue and red. So the Riso is actually the perfect workhorse machine for these types of jobs. But the only thing is, because it is a stencil system, you cannot print variables with the Riso. So for example, if you need every single page to have a different serial number or barcode, you cannot do that with the Riso. So if you're just printing a very small quantity, then it's cheaper to do laser printing, because with laser, the operator just has to hit print on the file, and then the file will get sent to the printer and it will print however many copies that you want. With the Riso, there's a little bit more setup involved in that once you send the file to be printed, the printer then has to burn a master or a stencil and then ink that up. And then afterwards, depending on the job, there's a little bit of finagling involved with registration and all that jazz. So where the Riso becomes significantly more cost effective compared to a laser printer is when you run higher quantities. Because the Riso is a stencil-based system, once the stencil has been set up, you can run hundreds or thousands of copies at a fraction of the time and the cost that it would take to do the same job with the laser printer. So that's it for this comparison video. My suggestion is, if you are considering printing in Riso versus laser, to obtain a sample that is printed in Riso so that you can better see the difference between the two printing technologies. Also, if you like, you can always order a color chart from the Pindot Press website, and I will link it down below. The color chart is actually free and you just have to pay for shipping, and that is because the chart is an educational tool that I love to share with everyone so that you can see what Riso prints look like, and so that you can also see how the different color inks interact when they overlay on top of one another. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comments section below, and I will see you in the next video. Hey everyone, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually started losing my voice towards the end of this video, and that's because I'm actually sick. Anyway, happy holidays everyone. Here's to 2019 dreams.